Good morning, good afternoon. What's going on there, folks? It is the Earth Master here on this Tuesday, January 25th date, 2022's the year about 11:30 a.m. California time. Latest quake, a 4.9 earthquake there on the Earthquake 3D globe, right around the Tonga Trench. It looks like. Actually, we'll take that back. 4.9. Go with a 4.5 in the Puerto Rico area, just coming into the Earthquake 3D globe. Still quite a bit of movement here, folks, in the Haiti and Puerto Rico area. Let's go ahead and check out this activity that's been occurring overnight and this morning as well. See if they got the latest quake here. That's kind of weird. Sometimes it comes in on the globe before the USGS map. It's kind of weird. Anyway, activity kind of ramping up here around the Haiti area and also Puerto Rico as well. Of course, Puerto Rico area will be showing the 2.5 and above. The Haiti area, not so much. There's that 4.5 that just came in. These guys, the USGS only reporting 4.0 and above in this area. But you can see here's the area of interest right now that we're kind of watching, where they had the 5.3 and a 5.1 magnitude earthquake. Now there's definitely been a lot more earthquake activity here on the map than what the USGS is showing. The EMSC verifies it. Been getting quite a bit of 3s and 4s in here as well. And the USGS just reporting another 4.5. Further to the east here, just off the coast in the Haiti area, 7.6 kilometers for that earthquake. And looks like pressure is still great here within this region. I know a lot of people, I was reading some comments last night, there's certain fault systems where earthquakes do relieve stress and whatnot in certain areas. But man, it just, sometimes you got to look at the areas here that have not been hit by past historical earthquakes within this vicinity of Haiti, and can't help but think and wonder the possibility if this is not leading up to something bigger. Sometimes quakes do relieve pressure, and then sometimes these are foreshocks. It just all depends on what the plate system and the fault systems want to do. But in this case here, I just kind of still looking at the potential for a larger quake in this area, just due to the historical data that I was looking at yesterday. Of course, there's been, it doesn't show it here on this map, but we could go back over the last 100 years or so and see that this area right here is kind of within a region of the fault system that has not seen anything above 6.0. There's been other areas, yes, a 7-pointer that struck last year in that region, close nearby, but not specifically on this this area of the fault. That has happened. So we're just kind of watching this area pretty closely, folks. 5.3, 5.1, I don't know. We're still getting some 4s. Something to watch pretty closely. Looking at the EMSC model of that area. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit here. These guys don't... these guys are definitely showing the activity in a little bit more detail compared to the USGS. Quite a few 3s kicking up here. Pretty significant size swarming. A 4.6 looks like that is the most recent quake coming in. A little bit larger than the EMSC model, but overall definitely heightened earthquake activity within the vicinity of Haiti. Looking at this map here, the charts shows quite a few 4s in the Haiti region that the USGS, of course, not reporting at all for some oddball reason. But it is what it is. And then, of course, the 3s are mixed in there as well. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the area. We'll keep an eye on that region for sure. It's pretty much a hot spot of activity right now. Puerto Rico over here to the east. Some further movement along the Puerto Rico Trench up here to the north. Just a little activity kicking up there in that region. Also down south here in the Trinidad and Tobago area, right off the coast of Venezuela. Seen some movement. This area here has also seen some activity over the last, I think it's been, well, I'm wanting to say maybe we need to go back 30 days or so and see this activity. Even then it doesn't pop up too much, but we have seen some further movement down here in this area of South America that haven't really seen too often. Quite a few threes and some, zoom in here, some other activity. Deeper movement as well, 105 kilometers for that 4.8 around the Port of Spain area. So definitely some dynamic movement here taking place, some deeper activity contributing to stress up here to the north. Looking at the rest of the South America region, off the coast of Panama here, got a 4.0. Further down the line, some spotty activity throughout the Peru-Chile Trench area. But at least here on the USGS map, these guys not showing a tremendous amount of earthquake activity in the South America region. So therefore, we shoot over to the EMSC to get a little bit better view. And we can see even the one within the last hour, a 4.0. And I don't think the USGS has shown that. See, these guys are not showing that activity here once again. So three pointers up and down the Peru-Chile Trench. There's definitely movement. When the USGS is not showing activity, it's just because it's below the 4.0 threshold that those folks use. So activity definitely continuing in the Peru-Chile Trench area. Down here in the South Sandwich Islands, of course, we've seen that 6-pointer. Looks like another aftershock 5.4 and a 5.1. That was prior to the 6.0 that struck last night. USGS is showing that activity down here. Roughly about the same sequence there as the EMSC model. In the North Atlantic Ocean, a little bit of uptick here in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a 5.3 that occurred. And also down here in the Ascension Island area, 4.9 at 10 kilometers below the surface. We're going to jump over here to Hawaii. We did have some further movement here, ways away from the Big Island, of course, southeast flank region here. One second. I had to sneeze. I don't think you guys wanted that on the update video. That just came out of the blue. But yeah, some movement out here in the Hawaii area. And this 4.7 that struck up here to the north, 41.1 kilometer depth for that earthquake. And these folks here, I was reading a little statement on it that the USGS put out here on this earthquake. See if they it's not included here on their page, but they mentioned on their other social media platforms that this earthquake is not related to any volcanic activity, but rather caused by bending of the oceanic crust and upper mantle under the load of the Hawaiian Islands. These sorts of earthquakes are surprisingly common, according to the USGS. The 6.2 back in October off the coast of South Point was the same sort of earthquake. Of course, remember that one that popped off down here. They're claiming it's not volcanic activity at all, just the oceanic crust and the upper mantle bending, if you will, under the weight of the Hawaiian Islands. So that's straight from the USGS on their social media pages. 4.7. Like I said, way up here. We just don't see too many too much activity up here around the Maui area. Things just kind of pretty stays confined here to the Big Island. Of course, we do get some volcanic activity, right? But these guys are saying that it's not volcanic in any way or shape or form, according to those folks. We'll see in the coming days, right? See if this has any effect on any volcanoes, which they say it's not. The northwestern part and western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, look at that, folks, pretty quiet. We'll go ahead and check out the EMSC model and see if these guys are reporting the same deal. Back off here for a little bit. Looks pretty quiet here, at least on their 4.0 map. Can zoom in here to this area and see if these guys are reporting anything with the earthquake activity. Looks pretty quiet as well on their map throughout the Philippine plate. A little bit of movement over here around Taiwan, south. A couple threes kicking up, but this area has remained locked and pretty quiet for the most part. For the most part here in this area. I had some hiccups. Just ate an awesome super burrito that Missy Mimi's cooked up here for lunch, and it was yummy, let me tell you. Hiccups, definitely a good sign that it was a good meal, but hopefully that doesn't continue through the update. There's the earthquake activity here on the USGS map in Taiwan, a 4.5. Also down around the Indonesia area, seen some fours kick off there as well. Some pretty shallow earthquake movement. Over here around Tonga, Samoa, still seeing a trail of activity, folks. And this activity here around the volcanoes definitely, I believe, well, is volcanic related. I mean, we obviously seen some movement a week or so ago with the Hunga Tonga volcano. That activity continues here on the EMSC model, up and down the Kermadec Trench, down into New Zealand, all seeing some heightened movement here. Of course, when we get a lot of subduction and other activity around volcanoes, you know, it's going to affect them. It definitely will stir the pot a little bit, so to speak. But quite a few threes kicking up in New Zealand area, north of the Hikurangi subduction zone there. It's kind of hard to see on this map. Let's see if we can zoom it up a little bit. Hikurangi subduction zone sits within this region. Kermadec Trench north, Tonga Trench up here. But a lot of activity in the 3 range, kicking up around the New Zealand area at the moment. And of course there on the USGS map, 5.2, that was last night that kind of occurred within this region. But remember, there's also other activity here on this map. Well, on the other map, not showing up on the USGS. 4.8 here in Western Australia as well. Having a little swarm of movement here. This area capable of, I believe, 6 pointers or so within this region. So kind of watching that activity as well. It's all mostly been confined here to this area lately along this plate. The region here has definitely seen quite a bit of movement over the last week or so. Also out here in the close to the mid-Indian Basin, a 5.0 kicking up, 10-kilometer depth for that earthquake. The Mediterranean Sea area and the Middle East all looks pretty quiet here on the USGS map. I'll back out of here and see what these folks are reporting on the EMSC. Been trying to slow down my cursor a little bit. I know a couple folks said the cursor was making them a little on the dizzy side. I tend to have that habit of definitely zooming pretty quickly there with the cursor, so trying to slow this down a little bit for those folks there that may be keeping an eye on the cursor. I can understand that pretty deeply. So some movement here on the EMSC model throughout the Mediterranean region. Quite a few 3s, and these guys are even reporting some 2s out here through the area. So definitely movement, nothing large scale, and that's being verified there with the USGS there on the map, the lack of activity. Let's go ahead and check out the western part of the states here into California, down around the Ridgecrest area, getting in on quite a bit of activity overnight. Looks like well, kicking back up how it should be, I guess, in our background activity, kind of ramping up. Normally this area sees a good handful of earthquakes on any given day, following, of course, the earthquakes there a couple years ago in the Ridgecrest area. That could continue for months, if not years, in the future. A little bit of activity in the red circles here along the Elsinore fault system. A couple small microquakes. No major swarming to report in Southern California at the moment. Up and down the San Andreas Fault here, a little bit of activity around the creeping area. That's a creeping section of a plate boundary. And some activity once again out in the Nevada area with a 1.9 earthquake striking north of the Walker Lake area. Pretty shallow earthquake at 5.8 kilometers. And some movement out around the Lake Tahoe area, just outside of it there by a little bit, north and south of the region. Volcanoes in the Northern California area look pretty quiet. No activity to report. 2.7 off the coast of Northern California, the Petrolia area at 20 kilometers. And a little trail of activity throughout the Pacific Northwest and the Intermountain West regions. They're kind of stretching up into Yellowstone. Tremor last night was kind of spotty here. 22 epicenters of tremor, mostly confined there to the southern end of the Cascadia. Not a whole lot of movement up north. Prior to this, the day before, we've seen a little bit of activity up here in the northern part. But overall, things kind of at a standstill when it comes to the Cascadia tremor. And I'm kind of curious to see when we're going to break that trend of quietness. Let's see what else we got here in the Yellowstone area. Checking out earthquake activity here at Yellowstone National Park. A little bit of movement kicking up here. Once again around the eastern part of the caldera, right around the Yellowstone Lake. You can see that seismograph station picking up this earthquake activity very nicely. Overnight it looks like, or late last night. Some activity earlier this morning as well. And the USGS not reporting on this. Well, actually just double check, see if they have updated it or not. Let's go over here to the all magnitudes. And looks like a little bit of movement has been reported in the northwest corner of the park, but that's not the activity we're looking for. We're looking for the activity showing up over here on the eastern side, which is well defined on these specific stations here. Borehole, Lake Butte, the promontory area. This area has a little separate swarming itself in the Maple Creek area, northwest corner. That's going to be some of these earthquakes right here, showing up nicely and well defined. And there's some littler ones there in there too, but USGS not reporting on those. Just the somewhat larger ones there, if you want to call them large, 1.1, and a couple microquakes underneath the 1.0 magnitude level. Oklahoma, Texas area, a little bit of activity throughout the Oklahoma region. Looks like around the Kingfisher area, a little swarm of activity kicking up here. I'm kind of curious to see what's underneath this activity. Shall we zoom in to the beautiful state of Oklahoma? What do we got out here? Definitely some fracking or pumping operations there. Definitely within the vicinity of about a mile or so. Some farmhouses as well, some creeks and whatnot. Creeks, whatever you want to call them. But definitely some operational injection wells out there, pumping operations within the region of these earthquakes. What do we got for the rest of the country? New Madrid zone's pretty quiet once again over here. Looking absent of earthquake activity. Nothing to report in the eastern part of the country. Alaska region. A little bit of activity up in the... we did have some around the Cook Inlet yesterday. A little bit of microquakes in this area today. And across the Alaskan range with a latest 1.7, and that's about it for the Alaska region. Not a whole lot going on in that area. Earthquakes Canada map verifying about the same thing. Yesterday this thing was lighting up with a bunch of red circles. Today not so much. Just some activity up here to the north around the Alaska area, 1.9. Other areas around the north area, Lancaster Sound, all showing declining activity. Yesterday this was kind of popping up in the red circles there, indicating some recent movement, but today looks a lot calmer up throughout the entire Canada area. All right, folks, we're going to jump off here. Have a great day. We do have a little bit of wind kicking up here right now. Not for certain if the stream will go down, but sometimes it does affect the stream. So if there's any buffering or whatnot here with the live stream, that could be due to the wind out here that we're experiencing in California right now. And it shouldn't bring the stream down, but sometimes there's intermittent buffering issues going on with the stream that we will definitely keep an eye on. And hope the wind dies down. I'm not a big fan of the wind. Kind of drying everything out here in California. We need some rain again, and unfortunately we haven't had a drop of rain this entire month. And it's looking dry into the February month as well, and that's not good because this January is supposed to be our wettest month, and we haven't had a drop of rain here in California. It's very disappointing. I'm not looking forward to fire season again, which is coming up. unfortunately, here in a couple months here for California. All right, folks, enjoy your Tuesday out there. Stay safe, and we'll keep an eye on the earthquake activity out here. Have a good day, folks.